Good evening and welcome to Recital all here on the campus of Fitchburg State University. My name is Rich Lapidus, and it's my privilege to serve as the university's president and the moderator for this evening's debate. At this time, I'd also like to thank our co-sponsor, the Sentinel and Enterprise newspaper, for their assistance in this. Tonight we have 9 of 10 candidates seeking the 5 available at-large seats for the Fitchburg City Council. Candidate Andrew Cordio was not able to be with us this evening. We have a nice crowd here in person, and this is also being televised live on FATV, so we thank them for their support in allowing this to be broadcast to a wider viewing public. I want to thank all of you for your interest in local government, and I urge you to get out there and make your voices heard on November 7th. So candidates, our format here tonight is pretty straightforward, I think. Each person will have an opportunity to receive a question. You get 1 minute, and then we'll work our way down the panel until everyone's answered the question. We have a timer. I'd like to introduce Matt Bruin. Matt, if you would stand. Matt is Public Relations Director here at the university. He's holding a timer, so he will give you the opportunity to see your time as it counts down. When we get to 1 minute, he will raise this little red paddle, and we ask you at that point to just finish your thought, and then we'll move on. And of course, given 9 candidates, we have to be respectful of each other's time so everyone gets an equal opportunity to say what they have to say. It's going to be a little challenging, so envision this as sort of a lightning round. You have to be succinct because we are going to cut you off and hold you to the time. After everyone's had an opportunity to answer the question, we'll give you an additional 2 minutes unfettered to add whatever additional you'd like to say and have a little banter back and forth, and then we'll move on to the next question. Once we get through the 9 questions, we'll give each person an opportunity for a 1-minute final closing statement, and then we will conclude. So at this point, let me go ahead and introduce the panelists that will be posing the questions to you. First, Charles St. Demond from the Sentinel and Enterprise. Thank you for being here, Charlie. Dr. Rodney Christopher is a professor of political science here at the university. Rodney, thanks for being here. And then finally, Thomas Satham Fizette is the president of our Student Government Association here at the university as well. Thomas, thank you. And with that, let me turn it over to Charlie for a couple of additional remarks. He'll introduce the candidates, and then we'll go ahead and get started.
Thank you, President Lapidus, and thanks to Fitchburg State University for partnering with the Sentinel and Enterprise this evening. Thanks also to our friends at FATV for providing TV coverage. Thanks to my fellow panelists, and of course to the candidates for their participation. We also remind the audience that next Wednesday at this time, also right here, we will be conducting a debate of the Democratic candidates for the special state Senate primary. Now I will introduce the candidates in alphabetical order from left to right. Incumbent David Clark, challenger Andrew Kuchar, incumbent Marcus DiNatale, incumbent Thomas Donnelly, challenger Michael Hurley, challenger Kelly Johnson, challenger Sam Squalia, incumbent Dean Tran, and challenger Anthony Zarella. Let's begin. Councilor Clark receives the first question first, and we'll proceed in alphabetical order as to who gets the first question, the next question first. So the second question will go first to Mr. Kuchar, and then we'll move down the line, and so that everyone gets a question first. So the first question is to Councilor Clark. Councilor, what is Fitchburg's biggest problem, and how will you, as Councilor-at-Large, help solve it?
Thank you, Charlie. Good evening, everyone. It's great to see a lot of folks here tonight, and thank you. I think it's public safety. I think it's a smaller level, of course, Fitchburg, but throughout the United States and throughout the world, we're living in a very difficult time. and we've got to be on our guard. So I think as a counselor, name any position you want in the state of Massachusetts or the United States or the world. That's the trouble that's right now in Fitchburg, in Massachusetts, in the United States. And that's going to be taking over what we do for many, many years. So my thought on that is that the times that we're living in, we've got to be on our guard.
First of all, I want to thank Alma Fitchburg City for hosting this tonight. Fitchburg's biggest problem is the lack of business. We still have a main street that has many, many vacant storefronts. We also have businesses that are suffering. It's very difficult to start a business here in Fitchburg. We need to become more business friendly. I think that by streamlining the ability to start a business in Fitchburg, we will make it more easier to be able for people to come in here and actually make Fitchburg grow. That's exactly what we need here in order to be able to get more tax revenue into our coffers and be able to provide more jobs for the city.
Biggest problem in the city of Fitchburg is roads, and it affects everybody in the city, no matter where you live. $75 million to fix all the roads in Fitchburg, over 180 miles, over 100 deemed poor with a PCI index of 48. Now, everybody wonders why the roads aren't getting fixed. Again, $75 million. The only three ways you can solve that problem: perpetual, indefinite property tax increases voted on by the voters, loan orders, which would have to be paid back over a 20-year period at a 2.5% interest rate, which would then delay critical improvements to other infrastructure needs like our school system, or allocation of available funds once the year closes out, which the council did this past year, allocating $200,000 at the behest of the mayor's request to supplement the $1.2 million we get in Chapter 90 funding. Those are the only three options. The fourth option as to excise tax revenue, hopefully I can discuss at a future time, but it's not as easy as some people like to attest. Thank you.
I think Fitchburg's biggest problem is its image. We are quoted or reported on negativity constantly. We have great neighborhoods, we have nice houses, we have plenty of people that have jobs, we get a good school system, we have a lot of wonderful things. Recreation, parks, playgrounds, running trails, riding trails, horseback trails, things that are never, ever mentioned when we're trying to advertise Fitchburg. I've been in real estate for over 45 years, and when I hear people comparing neighboring cities, you know, Fitchburg gets the wrong end. There are many people here. As I look through the crowd, almost everybody here lives in a very nice neighborhood. And I think that we have to improve our image by advertising our strengths and improving our weaknesses. Thank you.
I agree with Councilor Donnelly that our image needs to be improved. I feel the biggest issue facing Fitchburg is not having an attractive downtown, as well as community pride. We need to build on all the positive things we do and have done. Fitchburg has to celebrate its diversity in historical cultural activities. Our Civic Day celebration is a model for the county. Events like Festival of Nations and First Night need to come back. It's only by showing the people what Fitchburg has to offer that people are going to want to come here and invest in Fitchburg and raise a family here. Thank you.
Thank you for having me today. Thank you to the panelists and to FATV and all of you who have shown up tonight. Our biggest problem that I see faced, it depends on who you talk to. So I've heard some great answers so far. I agree with everyone. I think one of the ways that I can help solve what we find as one of the biggest problems is safety. and supporting the continuation of home ownership for local individuals instead of maybe out-of-town absentee landlords. If we can get home ownership locally to small families and pass them on to generations to come, that tax revenue can continue to increase. We can see that blighted buildings will not be a risk to our fire and police, to our neighbors. And to help solve that, you will just continue to help support the state grants that are coming through to local organizations like New View Communities, who are trying to get these houses into the hands of the people who deserve and have worked hard for them.
All right, so the biggest issue in Fitchburg's biggest problem, I feel Fitchburg's biggest problem is our outstanding debts and liability. Our total outstanding debts and liability in Fitchburg is somewhere like $260 million. It's a crushing amount of money, and we need to allocate specific funds every year to get to a scheduled payment of, from 2032, which is 15 years from now, we're supposed to be paying $12 million to $13 million to $14 million to $15 million, up to $26 million by the time of 2031. So we need to be fiscally responsible and focus on the core needs of the things that we are spending our money on so that we don't have to continue to raise our taxes the full 2.5% maximum legal amount that we can raise them in the city of Fitchburg. And we need to grow our economic base so that we can continue to get money in, so that we can continue to afford to pay our outstanding liabilities.
The lack of good paying jobs. Our unemployment rate is the highest in north central Massachusetts at 5.8%. Our poverty rate is at 20%, contributing to the negative reputation of the city. People want a home. People want to feel safe. They want a future, and jobs is the answer. In the last 5 years, I've submitted a handful of petitions to help economic development and economic growth. And I think with those petitions and work closer with the mayor, we can actually bring in and attract those businesses to relocate to the city and create jobs. And creating jobs is the biggest issue that the city has been trying to achieve in many years. Thank you.
I think, honestly, that everything that has been said so far is right, but it's also all wrong. I don't see Fitchburg as having one biggest issue. I think that's the wrong way to approach it. We have a slate of top-tier issues that are all interrelated. We can't attack one without taking into account every one of the others, because they all affect one another. We need economic development in order to pay down our debt. We need more jobs, which requires more business. We're not going to be able to have better roads until we have more money coming in, and it all connects. And so I propose that we look at Fitchburg's problems holistically. We see how they influence one another and how we can nibble away from the edges inward to solve each and every one of them in turn. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate. So we have now allotted 2 additional minutes to that question or topic if people would like to continue. Marcus?
I didn't say what my solution was to my answer because I didn't have enough time, but I would err on the side of additional free cash allocation for road repair. I hear a lot every year from candidates, from people in this city, that the city of Fitchburg is not a place to do business in, it's no good, and you should go somewhere else. I'm tired of hearing it. And let me list the examples of why I'm tired of hearing this. The commercial industrial tax base in this year alone went up 6%, the highest it's ever gone up in over a decade. We have done a streamlining of the permitting process for all food truck vendors in this city. We have cleared away all those bottlenecks. We have brought in businesses like River Styx Brewery, Harbor Freight, Boost Fitness, new development on Water Street where the Domino's is going in the dollar store, the soccer complex, Game On, which will add $8.5 million of valuation, which is $8.5 million of valuation that comes off the residential tax base, lowering your tax bill. We had the West Fitchburg Corridor Honey Farms, the yarn mill renovation, the River Street improvements, $250,000 grant because of the mayor's efforts with his relationship with Karen Polito in the governor's office to bring fiber optic cable to Airport Road, which is what businesses have been crying for. And last but not least, the airport terminal and the runway expansion. There are a lot of good things happening in this city. So I reject the notion that this isn't a place to come and do business. Maybe it wasn't a few years ago, but it certainly is now. Thank you.
Other thoughts, or we can move on? Anyone else? Okay, then let's move on to question 2. Rod, if you would, please.
Thank you very much. I'd just like to take a second to thank the Sentinel for the opportunity to participate in this debate. As a political scientist, my entire career has basically been focused around the importance of an informed citizenry in a democracy, and so this is a very valuable part of that process. So I appreciate the event and a chance to participate. Okay, Mr. Kuchar, municipal budgets are always tight. We'd like to know where you place your budgetary priorities and where you think that cuts could be made.
Well, we pretty much have cut as much as we can. My goal, again, is to, and I know Mr. DiNatale has summarized very well some of the improvements that Fitchburg has done over the past couple of years. I think more can be done in order to increase the tax base by driving more business, doing the good work that we have been doing over the past few years. And if there were cuts that were going to be made, I think we would need to really start basically a committee to really discuss the cuts, because we've cut as much as we can. We've cut basically to the core. And we desperately need to find more money, I agree, but who's going to get the cut? I don't know. We have to powwow that to figure out what exactly is going on.
So the city of Fitchburg's budget is 93% non-discretionary. What does that mean? It means we can't choose what we put in there. Budget is $118 million. $56 million is for the school system, which the state of Massachusetts demands we spend. $2 million for trash pickup. $4 million for debt service on existing loans. $30 million for unfunded liabilities, health care, Medicaid, unemployment insurance. $17 million for public safety, including DPW. That leaves a paltry $6 million in our budget where you can cut. So the question I ask people when they talk about cuts, since I have been on record the biggest cost cutter in the city, where do you want to cut in that 7%? You want to cut the library, senior center, veterans, IT, planning, recreation? I don't get many answers when I ask that question, because it's not a simple issue. You can scrimp and save wherever you can, but when your unfunded liabilities go up over $1.4 million a year, every mayor from the past to the future is going to have no choice but to raise the tax levy, because, as I've said in budget hearings, residents will be paying, every time they pay more on their tax bill, it's going straight to unfunded liabilities, not more services. So there is not really many places we can cut right now. Thank you.
I can't say it any better than Councilor DiNatale. I don't want to be redundant, so I yield to Mike Curley.
Thank you. I believe our budget, when we vote on our budget, it's to the bare bones. I mean, it's not like there are a lot of places to cut. When I put priorities on certain issues, naturally, one of my favorite issues would have been education, or would be education. I think we have to spend more money improving our schools by making them safer and healthier. Right now, we do have to put more money into that. Would I be in favor of saying, oh, let's lay off policemen to do it? Of course not. I'm not suggesting that at all. However, there are things that we can do better as a city. We have to do more to attract businesses to the city. We have to do more to improve and make our city have an attractive downtown area, not by putting paper signs in windows. I say, let's do something realistic and get people to have pride with their downtown area. Thank you.
Budget priorities for me, I look at what we have coming in for revenue, and I know that one of the most important things, especially on a federal discussion right now, is CDBG funding. We have a Board of Health, which is very minimally tasked, and they are very much heavy on the CDBG funding. So if we see that disappear, unfortunately, we're going to see a couple very important jobs disappear. So I would like to make sure that that money is made around so that if it is cut federally, we aren't losing some of our most important people. As well, CDBG money goes towards our housing, so that way people can do what's called a buy it, fix it program. They can buy a home and then come to the city, and the city can help them get funding so that way they can make things safer. CDBG money also goes towards the police department. So these are all things. And when it comes to cuts, let's be a little more fiscally responsible with electric instead of paper at the city level. I think that would help.
Budget issues, our priority should be focusing on the things in our budget that we are spending on wants and not our core needs. You know, when we have, $2 million in free cash, we need to focus on that money that we are spending. We spent, I believe we added 7 new personnel. We add money to raises. These are excess spending over our core needs. So that we can allocate enough money for roads. Really, that's the number one issue that I've heard throughout the city. As I've gone to 3,000 doors in the city, the number one issue is the roads. And right now we're spending the bare minimum state reimbursement, $1.1 million. We added $200,000 from free cash. I would like to see a percentage of our excise tax going specifically towards our road funding. We had $3.5 million in excise tax last year. If we put 5% of that, that's $200,000 every year, above the bare minimum state spending I would like to see.
So my focus in the past several years has been public safety. I've been trying to make sure that our police and fire departments are fully staffed and they have the resources to provide the protection the public needs. We've been very fortunate that we have 2 wonderful police and fire chiefs who've been able to manage their budgets, and we haven't been forced to make cuts in the budgets or lay off any personnel in the last 5 years. So we should be very grateful that we have a great police chief and a great fire chief. Thank you.
I think it's been quite clear. We've been told that we only have $6 million that we even can potentially cut. And I'm not about to challenge that expertise. I think, yes, those 6,000, we would have to do intensive study to find where to cut, because it's not an easy question. Everything those things go to, it may not strictly be non-discretionary, but it's not things we really want to be skimping on either. But instead of trying to figure out how to better divvy up the last crumbs of the last slice of the pie, we need to be thinking about how to grow the pie. We need to be seeking out more state grants. We need to be developing our economy so that our income is higher. And if we do that, then instead of looking at what can we slash, we're looking at how can we distribute this new money to address some of the things that we didn't have money to address before. Thank you.
Dave?
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to mention a little something about restoration at Crocker Field. That's something that I've been involved with for many years, and we have gotten a lot of CDBG grants going to Crocker Field. Crocker Field is a gem, and there's a group of people there, about 15 strong, who are by piecemeal trying to get Crocker back to the way it is, back to the way it was, and back it will be. I think that's all I wanted to mention. I did want to mention to FATV. I've had a chance to work on their board of directors for the last several years, so I've enjoyed working on those other committees. Thank you.
Okay, once again, any additional comments?
Could we just clarify for the audience what CDBG stands for, please?
Community Development Block Grant. So this is federally funded. Many organizations in the city will put forward their ideas of how they can best spend the CDBG funding for the city. The committee then comes together, reviews all of the proposals throughout from the organizations throughout the city, and then puts the proposals together with the committee, discusses, and makes choices, hard choices. They may ask for $5,000 and maybe they can only get $1,500. At this point, the CDBG money proposals are brought together, presented to the residents of the city. They had a great presentation put on by the city, and everyone was at the library. It was great. And then at that point, it goes federally, and the proposal is put forward to hopefully get that funding. And federally, we've heard that that money is in risk. And for me to lose 2 out of our 3 Board of Health departments, that is a big risk that I don't want to see. So I think that's very much a priority for myself.
Slowly recurring costs from the CDBG funding. Yeah.
I think we have to look at not only relying on grant money. As a member of the planning board, I'm familiar with the CDBG process, but we can't continually rely on grants all the time. And I mentioned earlier that one of the things we have to do is make Fitchburg a more attractive place to live, to have people come here and want to work. We need to show how Fitchburg is a great place to live, work, and raise a family. Market our assets. We have to accentuate the positive. Cogswell Park, Hollis Hill Farm, the Art Museum and the library. Show people one of the good things that we have in Fitchburg.
Okay, thank you all.
Okay, I would like to rebut.
Go ahead, we're pretty much out of time. Go ahead and take 20 seconds.
I think the education system in the city is wonderful. We get emails on a daily basis from the superintendent. I heard an insinuation that sounded like our education was not safe, not good, and not healthy. And I think it is good, is safe, and is healthy. And I heard another talking about public safety. The mayor and the city council has supported the police department and the fire department in unison all the time. Thank you.
All right, let's move on to question 3. Thomas, if you would, to Marcus DiNatale, please.
Mr. DiNatale, Fitchburg State University has purchased the theater block on Main Street to transform it into a hub of entrepreneurship. It also hopes to someday renovate the theater itself as a performing arts center. In what other ways do you think Fitchburg can encourage and grow its creative economy?
So what has taken place in the last several years is we have fostered in additional art galleries downtown. We have Fitchburg Art Museum. The council took steps a couple of years ago to renovate B.F. Brown School into an artist colony, if you will. We have the Boulder Art Gallery. I don't want to forget anybody, but we have Sitka Art Gallery. So we have fostered an environment in the downtown for cultural revitalization with the Fitchburg Historical Society's help and the Fitchburg Cultural Council. I think the university gets a bad rap at times in regards to the theater block because people look at it and go, you guys just gave away a property that was giving the city $12,000 a year in tax revenue. What they don't want to talk about is that whole sector of the theater block has been an eyesore for decades. The college took $12,000 off of our tax rolls to invest millions in that area. And with it comes commerce, jobs, more reasons for our students to come down here and patronize the businesses in downtown. So I wish people would look at the benefits of Fitchburg State University here and what it offers, and not the paltry taxes we lose when you compare it to the entire $45 million tax pie. Thank you.
I'm very happy that Fitchburg State University got the theater block. It was going to rot away if somebody like the university didn't buy it. I have been forward-thinking since the 70s when Fitchburg State at the Hammond Building built the Great Wall to shield itself from the neighborhood. And I told my father, who was a department head here, and President Hammond, we should be going down North Street. You could buy the buildings cheap, and you connect yourself with Main Street. President Mara came along, and it took him a few years to actually figure it out. They finally went down North Street. To me, it's the prettiest street in the city right now. The city spent a lot of money. The theater block will bring more students from Fitchburg State to the other end of Main Street, to the Upper Common. And that's what we need, traffic.
I think the fact that Fitchburg State is planning to renovate the present Fitchburg Theater Block is very exciting. There were plans to try and renovate that block several years ago, and it never happened, and it's been in disrepair for much too long. Fitchburg State University is one of the greatest assets the city has. We have to look at what they have done with North Street. The North Street corridor looks much better than it did 15, 20 years ago. And tying in with the intermodal station to bring people downtown is a very, very good aspect of what we need to renovate our downtown. Hopefully, it'll bring more students here and bring students to the downtown area. Thank you.
So the question of creative economy in the theater block especially, when I think about the theater block, I came to the presentation that Fitchburg State put on, and I listened to the 3-phase renovation that will be happening. And one of the first phases is turning the second floor into space for kids to go down and be learning about graphic design, about being able to start their own business. Business today isn't about being in a shop and being able to buy and sell. Business today is a world economy. So here you have students who have the ability to have a space. They can make their own business. This business is larger than Fitchburg. This business is larger than Massachusetts and the United States. So if we can continue to promote these students sticking around and getting together, you know, they can take one space downtown Fitchburg and they can have 8 people working out of it. So a creative economy is more than we may realize because there's so much potential in these students.
So Fitchburg State University's purchase of the theater block downtown and how to encourage and grow our creative economy. So I'm a member of the Fitchburg Cultural Alliance. I regularly attend Fitchburg Cultural Council meetings. I'm involved in a lot of the arts and culture area in the city of Fitchburg, and I believe that's one of our largest assets. Fitchburg has a rich cultural history, and the Fitchburg Cultural Alliance was working to create a downtown cultural district in the city of Fitchburg, which will help us get additional grants for funding. One of the hurdles that we had when we tried to create this downtown cultural district was our lack of businesses. So the investment from the university, which is one of our largest employers in the city, in the theater block, which has the capital to invest millions of dollars and revitalize this neighborhood, could turn us around to add us to the foundation of cultural identity that Fitchburg already has and add only to our success.
So last year I submitted a petition to create a business incubator. We had an initial discussion that the president of Fitchburg State University attended. We discussed what the intent for the business incubator. I also suggested to the president that we can use part of the theater block to support such an idea. And that petition is ongoing, it's in committee, and I hope that we can continue that discussion sometime this year and next year.
So I'm going to continue with the theme because I think it's correct. The key is the university. It is an excellent asset to the city, but I'm going to take it a step further. I think the key to revitalizing downtown, both economically and culturally, is to embrace the idea of not exactly a college town for the whole city, we're not a town, but a college town atmosphere in our downtown. I went to college in a college town up in Brunswick, and the same businesses and services that drew the students also drew everyone else. And it was largely cultural elements, not retail stores per se, but things that were interesting, things that would make you want to get off campus and go check it out. And I think we can do the same thing downtown with the help of our university.
Dave, we're coming back.
Am I up? Thank you. I'm trying to think of walking down Main Street after a football game, and then or staying over. And do people still have their red helmets, their red fire helmets with the emblem on it, whatever it is? That was a long time ago. And I can remember walking down, going by Ballerin's, having something to eat there. And after a while, the eating part of it was probably not the right thing to do. But I still have that plastic hat with the badge, and it brought great memories to a beautiful part of Fitchburg. And it would be fabulous if we could get it back, but we have to be realistic too. And we're going to do something about it, and I'm all for it. It's wonderful.
I'm extremely excited to see Fitchburg State purchasing the theater block. I've been actually talking about that for at least 10 years. Every time I would drive past the theater block and just see the eyesore that it was. So why couldn't Fitchburg State come down and maybe do a classic movie theater, maybe help restore the theater to what it once was? I think it's going to be a boom to the downtown community. I think it's going to increase the foot traffic. It's also going to increase people wanting to set up businesses on Main Street because of the foot traffic from the students coming down. It's going to create more restaurants, more small businesses, increase the tax base, and it's going to be overall a help to the city, and also help Main Street as well.
Any other thoughts on the topic? 2 minutes more?
I'd like to add that with creative economy, I'd love the partnership that students could have, and young adults and families and individuals, whoever has that passion, can have with Fitchburg, with FATV. The equipment that FATV has available, the way that they're moving forward and they're continuing to grow, to see the partnership that FATV could bring to the creative economy, that really excites me. I've seen films by Fitchburg State students done throughout the city, so I just keep looking forward to everything that partnerships can have.
I would like to also emphasize that any cultural revitalization of downtown, I think, needs to include a hard look at what we can do through and with our library. It's a great resource, and I think we can use it quite well.
Final thoughts? No? Okay. Then that concludes the first 3 rounds of our questioning. For those that are just tuning in on television, we are here at the Kent Recital Hall on the campus of Fitchburg State University. This is a debate for our city council, or the open seats. We have 9 candidates here. I want to thank again Sentinel Enterprise and FATV. And that brings us back around to Charlie and a question for Tom.
Thank you. Several candidates have already discussed the condition of the roads, and certainly that's a frequent complaint from residents across the city. So I pose this question to you, and first to you, Councilor Donnelly. Would you support putting a debt exclusion in front of voters that would raise taxes to dedicate money to street repairs, a debt exclusion or a Proposition 2.5 override that would raise taxes for that purpose, to make the roads in passable condition.
I would be willing to support it, but the public sentiment that I've heard is people do not want to do that. I would personally like to see more of the excise tax money spent on our roads. We pay excise tax and the gasoline tax and other things that are supposed to specifically go back to roads and bridges, and I would like to see more of that. But the excise tax, I wouldn't sponsor it. Would I support it? I might vote for it, but I don't think it's a good idea for the city. We have other priorities. I know that is something that everybody uses, but I think that it's going to be the mayor's call. What the council cannot initiate. We can support, but there would have to be the mayor's call if we were going to do it. We could put a petition in and apply for it, but I wouldn't recommend it. Thank you.
Ultimately, an override question would be the mayor's decision. The council could petition, but ultimately the decision would be for the mayor to put it on the ballot and have a question on the ballot. Would I oppose a question going on the ballot? Of course not. If the people wanted it, I would want them to get what they want. Currently, under the current formula for funding, which is Chapter 90, the city is entitled to reimbursement of expenditures for maintaining and improving all of our roads. Under this current formula, under Section 34, road building machinery and equipment is also covered under this program. I would like to see the city look at doing more road repair on its own versus contractors. I do realize, of course, this would require hiring more people for DPW, and cost would be the biggest concern, but I wouldn't rule it out. I would like to see us look at it. Thank you.
So the question regarding posing this to putting it on a ballot to the voters, I absolutely would love to see that. I'd love to see more people get out and voice their opinion. You can contact your councilors, you can contact your mayor, but if you want to go ahead and have an opinion, you talk to your neighbors, you tell them how important this is to you, you give them a reason to go ahead and vote yes for this or to go ahead and vote no for it. So the more participation we have from our voters, I feel would really bring out what the city should do, whether I think it should be or not. I want to hear your opinions, and I think putting it on a ballot would be a good choice for us. Thank you.
I would be hesitant to suggest a Prop 2.5 override for road funding. I believe a few years ago it was suggested by Lisa Wong that we put $7 million into it, and the overall discussion was that was not in our best interest. The number one concern as I go door to door is the roads, but equally tied with the number one concern is that their tax rate keeps going up. Their tax bill, our residential tax bill keeps going up. And so if we put a Prop 2.5 override, that would increase our taxes even more. And at the same time, while we're trying to lower our dual tax rate, lower our commercial rate to a single tax rate, I don't think this is the right time to consider a Prop 2.5 override. I would bring it to the people and ask what the people think. But I think generally that people would prefer that we focus on trimming our budget and allocating a specific amount of money from our excise tax to a road repair fund, so that we're not spending the state minimum reimbursement for a road repair, and instead we're allocating a specific small amount additional every year.
Well, the city has increased the property tax since the inception of Proposition 2.5 to the maximum. That's 1982. The median income in Fitchburg is $46,000 to $48,000, the lowest in the area. We're not a city that can handle a debt exclusion or a Proposition 2.5 override. It's not fair that we continually increase the tax on the homeowners. So my answer to this is an astounding no.
I do not have a personal opinion one way or the other at the moment, and that actually sort of leads into my overall position, which is if the voters want it on the ballot, then of course they can have it on the ballot. Personally, I do not feel it would be wise to put it on the ballot because I certainly, as a voter, not as a candidate for council, I do not feel that I'm well informed enough off the cuff without doing extensive research to know whether that would in fact be a good move for the city or not. And frankly, I doubt that the average voter is either. That's not a knock on the intelligence of the average voter. As I said, I don't know any better either. It's that it's a very complex issue that most people do not have the time to research thoroughly. And when you make decisions on the basis of gut feeling rather than data and research, that's when you wind up with things that seem like a good idea at the time but bite you later, like our two-tiered tax system. Thank you.
Thank you. The debit exclusion that was looked at a couple of years ago fell to a 2/3 vote. I was for that. To me, the streets were just so intolerable that I thought that would be the way to go, and that is the way that I voted on that particular incident. It needed a 2/3 vote, and I believe it lost by 1. So there was a switch over there, but we need our roads to get a bit better than they are now. Thank you.
Yes, we do need to work on our roads, but I would be 100% against Proposition 2.5 increase, excuse me, in our taxes. We pay our excise tax, we pay our gas tax. What we need to do is we need to use our money smarter. The roads are getting better. You look at River Street, it's looking really good. You look at other parts of the city. You look at the corner of South Street and Electric, it's looking good. It's going to take some time to get these roads in order, but what I think we should do is in 2015, when I ran for office, I suggested getting a recycling truck for our asphalt. Gardner has one. They call it the pothole patrol. And basically, it's a crew of people who go around looking for the problems on the streets and putting in a repair for them. They're reusing the asphalt that they dig up off the roads and recycle it. And it's not very expensive to do, and I think it would benefit the city greatly.
So I voted against the debt exclusion request because people have to understand what these are. Prop 2.5 override means your taxes will be increased forever, way above the 2.5%, forever. The debt exclusion is a period of time. You're telling the city of Fitchburg, we're okay with you taking a $10 million loan, a $5 million loan over a 10-year period. Our taxes will be raised much higher than they normally are in that 10-year period to pay the loan off. And then what do you do after that? So the voters have to be educated on what a debt exclusion is. The mayor proposed in 2011 a $5 million debt exclusion. We need $75 million to fix our roads. That is 6.7% of our problem. So what do we do after those 10 years? Do we have 30 debt exclusions in the next 100 years, which is just like a Prop 2.5 where you're constantly raising the taxes? So you do a 10-year debt exclusion for $5 million. You fix another 7 or 8 miles of road. Great. What about the other 100 that are in poor shape, that are in worse shape after the 10 years? It's not practical. And the voters, if they're given that information, I will guarantee you it'll fail 3-1. Thank you.
Any follow-up?
I have a follow-up. First of all, gas taxes. Residents of Fitchburg do not pay gas taxes that go into the city's coffer. That goes to the federal government. And we all know how the federal government spends our money. The state of Massachusetts, they have no money to give us for road repair because they're strapped too. So I hear the excise tax issue. It's dependency. It's a failed practice our officials did 40 or 50 years ago, like many, where they said, you know what? We really should put the money from excise taxes to roads, but we want to spend it on other stuff. So that's what they did. And they kept doing it, and doing it, and doing it. 50 years later, we are dependent on that now. So whenever you hear any candidate talk about an excise tax reduction, ask them the next question. Where specifically are you going to cut in the budget to fund that excise tax? Where are you going to fund it? That's number one question. Number two, you're not going to do an excise tax shift through the cuts. You're going to do it through new revenues. We have medical marijuana facilities coming into Fitchburg, 4 or 5 of them. Hundreds of thousands of dollars in new tax revenue. I am demanding that the mayor and his finance team allocate that new revenue, which we've never collected before, to road repair. That's what you do. You don't tell the residents, we'll siphon $50K out of excise tax in the general fund. What's $50K going to do? It's going to pave a tenth of a road. Let's say you do $200,000. It's going to pave a half a mile. That'll knock a dent in things. You got to be practical, ladies and gentlemen. Excise tax can only happen if you cut the budget. Where are they going to cut the budget? Thank you.
Okay, looks like we have a couple more comments, so let's add maybe another 2 minutes to this and keep it going.
I didn't realize that as a city councilor, you could demand that when new businesses come in, you could dictate where their taxes were going.
You can't dictate.
If you can, why isn't the money from the soccer fields going into road repairs?
Did I say you can dictate to the mayor what you can do? I demand that the mayor does. I demand the mayor does a lot of things. He's sick of me by now. But you know what? Doesn't mean he listens to me. All right? All I'm saying is if the mayor were smart and the finance team were smart, they'd use new revenues to tie to the roads. The Game On complex hasn't hit our books yet. So that discussion is premature at this point. But you know what? We want to allocate the new... We want to allocate the Game On new revenue. Be my guest. I'm not going to stop it. Great idea. Let's allocate it all. Thank you.
Well, we continue to complain about the excise tax going to the general fund and this being a problem for 20 to 30 years. Why don't we start allocating a percentage of that to go to a dedicated road repair fund? Why don't we start figuring on that instead of a future growth that might not actually transpire or that might have to go to our unfunded debts and liabilities?
Let's go Anthony and Tom, and then we'll move on, please.
First, I'd just like to note that I don't think an allocation of existing excise tax is feasible because, as we've been saying, as many people have been saying over and over tonight, what are we taking it from? It's great to say, let's allocate some of our existing taxes to road repair. What are we taking the allocation away from? However, I would just like to reiterate that the excise tax issue, the excise tax going into the general fund, is exactly the sort of penny-wise and pound-foolish idea that I was alluding to earlier. The kind of idea that sounds excellent in the short term, but that no one has thought through the long-term implications and what it's going to do to us down the road.
Tom, you want to finish up?
Yes, that's why I brought up the excise tax issue. I think voters, residents, citizens are upset when government says we're going to collect the tax for one thing and it goes into the general fund and it's not used there. And if I said anyone misunderstood me, the state tax and federal tax, I didn't say the city gets it, but state tax and federal tax that goes for gasoline or fuel is supposed to be for roads. And again, the state and the federal government puts it into the general fund and we don't get it back for roads and bridges. That's my point.
Thank you. Professor Christie, if you would ask your question to Mr. Hurley, please.
Okay. Mr. Hurley, the city is exploring several major capital projects, from restoration of City Hall to renovations in the public library. What project would you like to see addressed first, and why?
I would like to see the library looked at first. I know we do need a new city hall. However, I don't believe it was the right choice for us to spend $90,000 for a study when we had just done a study previously. I do hear people say that, oh, we had to do the study, otherwise we couldn't move forward with our renovation. Well, it's kind of like putting the horse before the cart. As far as a library goes, a library is a vital part to any community. It's what brings people to our community to go downtown, and a lot of people say, well, libraries aren't what they used to be, kids don't use it. Nothing can be further from the truth. We need a library, we need a good, viable library. We are the only community in this part of the county that doesn't have a good library. I mean, I don't know why we don't see that. A library is an important part. I do say we need a new city hall, but let's not ignore the library. Thank you.
This would be a tough question when it comes to renovations. I understand the importance of bringing City Hall personnel back together into one building. I understand that the library, unfortunately, has roof problems, heating problems. We don't have proper Wi-Fi. These are all issues that are being addressed and discussed. I just don't know right now if either of those are a viable option when we have so many other things where the first question was, what's our biggest problem? And we heard numerous things. We hear about safety with the police. We hear about the road repairs constantly. So going ahead and focusing on something, our problem with City Hall and the library is that through the years, we gave no money for ongoing repairs. We never kept up with what was falling apart. We never allocated the proper funds to it. So right now, the renovations just isn't for me. It's not as important as other things that we can put our funds towards.
Renovations for city buildings, for infrastructure of we need to maintain our city buildings. We need to maintain our infrastructure. That's going to give us the most savings in the long run. Look at Old City Hall. If we had just fixed the roof that had been leaking for 20 years, it would still be in use today. Whereas with the roof leaking caused the roof trusses to degrade to such a point that it was in danger of collapse and we had to relocate. And it's now been vacant for 7 years. In 2019, when we have extra bonding capacity, I believe that we need to take that money and focus on the core needs of the city. We need $11 million to fix Longsjo School. We need $5 million to Crocker School. We need $15 million to match the state grant for the library. We need money for the police station, fire station. There are different fire stations with different needs. And then we have our roads. Our roads, we need $75 million to bring our roads back to standard. We need to focus on our core needs, not the wants that we wish that we could afford.
So the focus must be placed on where the people, the majority of the public congregate. And if you were to prioritize between the library and City Hall, I would put the library on top. The library needs to be fixed. It needs to provide a safe environment for the people to visit, especially the children. So that's where my priority would be.
First, let me say that I do feel that the library is an essential component of our community. It is a cultural hub, it is a community hub, and it is an excellent resource. So, of the things currently on the radar tonight that have been mentioned, if I had to pick one now, I would probably pick the library. That being said, the way I approach issues like this, I would want to see a comprehensive list of all such projects being considered, complete with price tags and plans, before I could commit to one above another. Because again, making decisions for the city based on summaries and gut feelings is not the way that we move forward intelligently. So I am going to say tentatively library, but I'm going to punt. I would want to see all the information first. Thank you.
I would just agree with what you said. We definitely need to sharpen up our library, and it's been waiting to get cleaned up in quite a while. And there are some other auxiliary problems that we're having down the library with people in front and using it for a public restroom. Stuff like that, kind of, you know, kids aren't going to go, or mom and dad ain't going to bring their kids there if they have to go by themselves to take care of themselves. So I think I'd wait a little bit on the library, but if I had my druthers, I would go with the library.
I would have to say 100% I would go with the library. Would I like to see Old City Hall up and running again? Absolutely, I would. But I bring my kids to the library. It's still a good place to bring your children. I've never seen people using it for a public restroom, but what I have seen going in there, I've seen the same water spot grow over the past 10 years, and it just continues to degrade. We need to put the money into the library in order for families to be able to utilize it. Again, I bring my children there. We utilize a lot of the assets that they have, and I think it's something that we should invest in.
So first, it's important to get the numbers right on what we need. Someone said it's $15 million for the library, it's $27 million. It's a $39 million project. The state's going to kick in $12 million. We're on the hook for 27, not 15. For Crocker Elementary, it's not $5 million, it's $9 million. And my number one priority for the debt that we can take on, Crocker Elementary. I've been in there many times. It is embarrassing. But it's one of the last schools on our list for MSBA state-sponsored grant funding for improvements. The $8 million, $9 million is the 20% we would have to pick up after they cover 80% of the projects for a full reno. Now, as to City Hall, everyone keeps talking about City Hall as if we go with City Hall, everything else gets pushed to the side. Fallacy. You can do $9 million at Crocker, $12 million at the library, and $20 million at the City Hall, all under the same debt capacity. You can do all three at once. So if you go at City Hall, you're not punting the ball on Crocker and the library. You can do all three. That's within our existing debt structure, and the treasurer has already provided councilors with that factual data. So do not believe the spin that if we go at City Hall, everything else is going to get crumbled even further. It's not true. Thank you.
Thank you. I agree with Councilor Di Natale. I think that they're all important. I think that funding has been, we're paying off other loans, which is going to allow us to do bonding for these other projects. So I support all of them. Was a mention about $90,000 study. In order to begin to find out, there were three options. I was on the committee. Tear down City Hall, try and fix it up, or renovate it. There were 2 or 3 different ways to do it. Save the facade, tear the whole thing down. We have lots of problems there. And the most expensive that we were told was to tear it down. We have preservationists that want to save the facade. So the study has been done, the committee voted on it, and I will support the committee's vote. Thank you.
Other thoughts? Please.
I had mentioned earlier about safe and healthy schools, and somebody questioned what I meant by that. As Councilor Di Natale said, he would like to see some money put into Crocker School. A lot of our schools are in disrepair. A lot of our public buildings are in disrepair. And I don't know why we have to let things go as long as we do. There are kids that walk or ride a bus every single morning, and all of last year, every single day for the whole school year, they went by B.F. Brown. It's a shame. That fire was in the fall, and people said, don't worry about it, Mike. We're going to get a roof on there before Christmas. It never happened. Now, winter's coming again. What's going to happen to BF Brown? We don't know. We're still in negotiations with insurance, or we can't talk about it. This is a shame. That building could be a city hall. When you walk in that door, you have a beautiful gymnasium on one side, you have an auditorium on the other side, and you have a beautiful structure inside which is perfectly safe. It's a crying shame that we don't do more about it or even look at it. We haven't even looked at it in the past, and I think we should do that. We have to be more innovative. We should not be maintaining old buildings. We're very good at that in Fitchburg. I don't know why. Thank you.
When it comes to our bonding capacity in 2019, there's only a finite amount of money that we can spend. City Hall has been vacant for 7 years. We let it deteriorate over the 20 years before that, or even longer. It's not a historic building, and the proposal for the City Hall campus is going to cost us anywhere from $20 to $40 million. Currently, where we pay rent, which we pay to the Fitchburg Redevelopment Authority, it would be 222 years worth of rent to equal $30 million renovation of Old City Hall. And that's $30 million over 222 years that we pay essentially to ourselves, the Fitchburg Redevelopment Authority.
Okay, thank you,
I
candidates.
have something to say.
Go ahead. 20 seconds.
I've been on the council for 10 years. When Mayor Lisa Long was in office, she made it clear on day one that we were going back to 718 Main Street. And I didn't hear anybody say anything. Now all of a sudden it's a big issue, as if you support that, you are neglecting everything else. It is not true. We are able to do far more and above what we already are doing, even with a $20 or $30 million city hall. And as to our school infrastructure, the school committee has been paramount in getting our schools in top-notch shape. We have a long way to go, but we've chipped away at it considerably, and that is well documented. Thank you.
All right, let's move on.
I believe that the vast majority of our residents would prefer to spend $20 million on our roads than $20 million rehabbing Old City Hall, frankly.
Okay, all right, let's move on.
If they spend $20 million on the roads, can we please be upfront and honest with them and not give them buzzwords so we can get a vote? If they do $20 million, that only solves 32% of the problem and kicks off the rest of it for another 30 or 40 years. So all of the roads that aren't getting taken care of, what do you say to those residents? See, it's red meat to the residents. Please, don't buy it, okay?
So,
let's be honest.
Don't let perfect be the enemy of the good. If we can't pave every road, let's not allocate any of that $20 million to our roads.
Okay, let's move on, please. Thomas, how about a question to Kelly, please?
Ms. Johnson, recreational marijuana is expected to be legal next year. Would you support local efforts to attract commercial investments in this sector? Why or why not?
Commercial investments as in growth of recreational marijuana. That's a tax revenue. That's a business revenue. Here, it was a vote given to by the people. I think marijuana is something that people of all ages have seen through time. I think it also reflects on the opioid crisis. Here you have individuals who are being given narcotics to control their anxieties, control their pains. We have retired generations who see a future in being able to control their pains, and we have cancer treatments here. Recreational marijuana, I think absolutely it's a business revenue if we have the buildings that people want to rehab. We have large factory buildings. I don't see why that would be something that would be a problem.
The fact is, the medical marijuana is legal. So the manufacturing of medical marijuana is a manufacturing industry that Fitchburg is currently capitalizing on. Fitchburg also, as a voting populace, voted for the recreational marijuana. So recreational marijuana is also legal. If we do not capitalize on this growth industry, then other surrounding cities and towns will. And the fact is that Fitchburg has a lot of these mill buildings that are actually perfect for manufacturing of medical marijuana. We have low ceilings, which is not required, for high ceilings for marijuana industry. And these are the kinds of industries that can come in and utilize our existing building stock and provide jobs, provide an economic tax base. It's legal. We should capitalize on it. We need to grow our economic tax base.
I have already voted in the affirmative for cultivation and manufacturing of medical and recreational marijuana. Several proposals came in from the council, and I have voted for them. Now, dispensaries are a different issue. Thank you.
I think we need to draw a clear distinction between medical and recreational marijuana. There are arguments for and against both, but I think that blurring the line between the two is a recipe for bad policy prescriptions. I think that there is a lot stronger argument in favor of medical than in favor of recreational. The people did vote for recreational, it is legal, and therefore we do need to decide how we are going to react to that, and I think it would be foolish to pass up an opportunity for economic development. However, I do not think that recreational marijuana is as arguably an unadulterated good as the potential for medical marijuana. I think there are problems that it could bring to our city, and I think we need to be conscious of those, even as we deal with the fact that it is now legal. Thank you.
I have stated, I think it's important, again, for public safety, and when it comes to this particular matter, I am in close contact with our chief, and I'm going to take my cue from Chief Martineau regarding this issue. Thanks.
Anytime a business wants to come into Fitchburg, we should applaud it. I know the legalization of marijuana was voted for in Fitchburg, but there were a lot of people against it. Look, we desperately need help, and the only thing that we can really do in order to increase our tax base is to get more businesses in here. And I would fully support, in fact, we have projected marijuana growing facilities coming into Fitchburg. We need help here, folks, and you know, if this is going to help us, then I'm all for it.
The city has already capitalized tremendously in this area. There's 4 manufacturing facilities, 1 dispensary, and more on the way. 61% of the voters voted for medical marijuana, 57% of the voters voted for recreational marijuana. So I have said to the mayor in private and public conversations with his finance team, because we are able to negotiate with these companies that want to come here and do business with us, we get to negotiate the terms, and we get to negotiate with them what piece of the pie are they going to give us every year for our hosting them. So I have advocated strongly that the mayor and his finance team negotiate as hard as they can to squeeze every penny from these companies as we can get, because the more we get, the better it benefits all the residents in this city, because it's more revenue in the coffer that we don't have to take from you. Thank you.
As Councilor Vitale said, the voters voted it in marginally. It's still going to be legal. The state is working out the details. We have a number of facilities already working, and I believe we're going to get the distribution facility also. So I can't add to that.
As a member of the planning board, I have advocated for the four marijuana growers that are presently running in the city of Fitchburg. There's a 5th one coming up. there is a big difference between medical marijuana and recreational use. However, it is very well regulated. And the way it's regulated is it's from its inception. From the time it's a seed, it is designated as being medical marijuana presently. When they start to do the recreational marijuana, that will be followed and only used for that purpose. Along with that, I have been working very closely with Mount Wachusett Community College. They have designed a course on workers that will work at medical marijuana facilities. And the reason I wanted to do that was to keep it local. This is a business that we can capitalize on as a city. We have the paper mills, we have the whereabouts to do it. Let's take advantage of it. We need the tax base, we need the money. Thank you.
Okay, we have 2 additional minutes for marijuana discussion. Tom?
Probably won't go over too well, but it was suggested that Fitchburg now is going to be the marijuana, if you will, capital. But we've gone from paper to pot. So, thank you.
Okay, on that slogan, we will move on to our next question if we can. Charlie, please, to Sam.
Thank you. This is a long question, and I apologize for that, but pay attention. In April, the Massachusetts Medical Society's House of Delegates overwhelmingly approved a pilot project of supervised injection facilities, rooms where drug users would inject heroin or other narcotics under medical supervision. They cited studies showing that one city that hosts such a facility, Vancouver, British Columbia, saw a 35% drop in overdose deaths and 30% more patients who use the facility seek treatment as compared to drug users in the area who do not. Provided the legal issues could be resolved, and there's still, at the federal level, there are bans against such facilities. Would you support, provided those legal issues could be resolved, would you support Fitchburg hosting such a facility? Yes or no? Why or why not?
So I did a show on this, on Discussing Fitchburg Now on FATV. And Will Darkangelo and Jamie Darkangelo went to a medically supervised injection facility in Sydney, Australia, and learned about it, did a tour, and they came on the show, and we did a whole hour-long segment on it. And so at first, my first reaction was, oh no, this is a terrible idea. But after I researched it, you could see that there were significant benefits to it. The people that go to these medically supervised injection facilities, there are 0 overdoses in Sydney, Australia. And they clean up the surrounding areas because we have needle disposal everywhere throughout the city. But having said that, the way that they determine where to put these is they determine hot spots of activity throughout the area. And then they determine ambulance pickups, Narcan use, police, and they determine these hot spots of where you'd want these facilities. The issue with it is no one wants it in their backyard. And until I saw the studies and the hotspot activity, we wouldn't want it necessarily in our backyard either.
Is that a yes or a no?
That's a no at this time.
Okay.
So data from one study is not enough for me. I'm a data-driven guy.
That's one that I cited. There were other studies that they had looked
right,
at.
but not enough studies. I know about this issue, and I've been calling Fitchburg my home for the past 31 years. I know all the troubles that Fitchburg has gone through. I definitely do not want Fitchburg to be a pilot city. I'd rather see more data. I'd rather see more cities and towns be involved in this study before I engage Fitchburg into such study. So to answer your question, Charles, no.
I'm going to be very blunt on this issue. I think it is one of the more asinine ideas I have ever heard. I think that, number one, there is the federal legal issue. We would be essentially, or the organization would be essentially becoming an accessory to a federal felony. Secondly, you have the issue that who is liable? You know, someone goes to a safe injection site and ODs anyway. Who's liable? Are we liable? Is the organization liable? Who's going to get blamed, whether or not they're legally liable? Thirdly, we're then drawing crime to the area. And I'm not even talking about the addicts themselves. I'm talking about where are they getting their supply. Let's say we cordon off 3 blocks around the area, around the facility, and have heavy policing to make sure there's no dealing going on. Guess what? 4 blocks out, that's where the dealers are congregating to get the addicts as they're coming to the facility to shoot up. It's a stupid idea, and we should not have it in the city of Fitchburg.
Dave?
I would agree with that, Councilor. I mean, there's not much to say after that. That was a pretty good show, and next show coming up in 2 hours. Thank you.
No, I agree with Mrs. Zarella, and that it would be a huge liability to the city. Look, folks, we're in a public health crisis here. We need to get to the root of the problem, and we have been doing some good. I mean, we basically are having daily overdoses in Fitchburg every day, but with the Charlie Baker and Karen Polito plan, we need to continue to apply for grants in order to help with this. Also, community policing. We need to find the root of this problem and not add to the problem.
I am totally opposed no matter how you slice it. I think Fitchburg is oversaturated with social service agencies that service the region and beyond. This is not a knock on social service agencies, because that's how it's always construed. Fitchburg is saturated. Time for the other communities in the region to pick up some of the tab for our regional and state medical and mental ills, and share some of that responsibility, not just house it in Fitchburg. It's not just a not in my backyard issue for me on that sense. What it is for me is we have so many services in the city already that cater to other parts of Worcester County and beyond. Time for another city or town to host a service of that nature, not here. Thank you.
I think most of us know a wonderful family. There are a number of families, wonderful families, that have raised their children, and then somebody gets addicted. I know people need help, but Fitchburg has more than its fair share of social service agencies, more of its fair share of nonprofits. Now, there are many nonprofits that I'm not criticizing, but the nonprofits where the owners or the highest paid people come here and tell us how to take care of those people with problems, but they go home to their lily white community, their more affluent community, and leave us with the problem 24/7. Those are the ones that I'm talking about. I think people don't want it in their backyard, and they certainly don't want it next door. And I have mentioned it before about the social service agencies that bring more problems in. They bring people with problems into the city, they take care of them perhaps during the day, and then they go back to their more affluent community and leave us with the problem. Thank you.
For all of the aforementioned reasons, I would have to say no. This would put a burden on our police department, on our fire department, and on our medical facilities. You know, it wasn't too many years ago, our sister city couldn't wait to steal our hospital from us. Well, they've got the hospital, let's put it close to there. Thank you.
I think this is the first thing we've all agreed on. So I am going to say no to that. It's a risk that I just would not be willing to take. I appreciate that this question was backed right after the recreational marijuana, as you heard me state. that is something that could help the opioid crisis as well. We just heard from Mr. Hurley here that there is a facility next door to us in Leominster that if they felt strongly enough, that is a large private building facility company, that if they felt that the research was there, maybe they would be the ones to properly make that decision. I don't think that we would be the ones without a background to go ahead and approve that. I would not support that.
Any additional? Anthony?
I'd like to add one further remark. Strip away the pretty language, safe injection site. What we're talking about here is a modern-day opium den. Thank you.
I'm disappointed in the complete dismissal out of hand of the medically supervised injection facilities that has been researched as cited by multiple studies, and there are thousands of them throughout the world, to simply dismiss them out of hand and call them asinine and stupid. Whereas if you were to study the issue, you might learn something about it. And it's one thing to not have it in our city, but it's another thing completely to dismiss it out of hand and insult the idea completely when we have such a problem with the opioids in the area and in the country.
If you have an epidemic of people cutting off their right hands, do you stop them cutting off their hands, or do you teach them how to tie a tourniquet around their wrist?
Other thought? Dave, please.
I just wanted to thank Charlie for that question. Charlie, thank you. Great.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Charlie.
Okay, other final thoughts? Last chance? Going? Okay. Want to again thank those that might be just tuning in. We're at Fitchburg State University in Kent Recital Hall. This is the Councilor-at-Large discussion. I want to thank the Sentinel Enterprise and FATV for their services as well. Let's move on to the next question then. Rod, how about a question to Dean Tran, please?
Excuse me. Mr. Tran, what specific regulatory changes do you believe would spur economic development in the city?
Just to name one?
One would be sufficient.
I've been involved in many, but I think the major one that I believe that I worked on along with many of my colleagues is to streamline the process in City Hall, making it easier for business to come and do business at City Hall. In the past, if you were to start up a company or need permits to begin a business, you have to go to various locations within the city or various departments, and they would send you from one department to another. Now we have a economic director position filled by Mary Jo Bohart. All you have to do is just to go to her, and she would help you go. She will guide you through the whole entire process. And her position was a result from my petition to the City Council, work along with the mayor to fulfill that position. So streamlining the process and having an economic development director in place, I would say, have played a tremendous role in helping moving the city forward.
As a member of the Zoning Board of Appeals, I took an active role in shaping the recently passed petitions to reform our zoning ordinances to make it easier to reoccupy vacant and abandoned buildings without going through quite as much red tape for the simpler cases, while at the same time retaining control over the more problematic cases. I think that is a good example of the sort of thing we can do in other areas as well. I think what we need to do is look at our current policies and see where are people getting hung up. And wherever that is, figure out what trade-off are we making here? What benefit are we getting from these tight regulations? And is there a way to loosen them without negating their core purpose, as we did there with the zoning? can we make it simpler for people to move forward without opening the floodgates to a bunch of, bad issues?
I'm okay, thank you.
No response?
Excuse me, I'm sorry. No, I'm all set, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Well, attracting new businesses in Fitchburg is going to take an investment in our infrastructure. Investors want to set up shop in communities that will offer them a place for their employees to work and establish roots. When investors see a well-maintained business property, they see a chance to make an investment. We need to capitalize on our 2 rail systems, rail stations in Fitchburg, and now with easier access to Boston, to and from Boston, and our growing state university and the ability to support economic growth, even though we do not have an easy access to major roadways. This all comes down to packaging and promotion of what Fitchburg has to offer instead of what we can't offer.
So you need an inventory of publicly and privately held, unused, vacant, developable land. Sounds pretty straightforward, but it hasn't been done in decades. I know the current administration has assured me that they're working on that as we speak, but you need to package together the resources we have, whether private or publicly held, and market that land for big development use. I'm talking box stores, you name it. The soccer complex in West Fitchburg is a small example of where it was a private piece of land that was valued at $500,000, and now it will be converted into an $8.5 million valued property. That's an $8 million uptick in the commercial tax base. The city has to take an inventory of properties like that, along with vacant commercial properties, so we can market it. And last but not least, we have to continue the demolition of old vacant buildings that are city-owned. This administration, with the support of the City Council, has done tremendous inroads, made tremendous inroads in that effort, spending over $1 million so far on demolishing properties. You see them all over the city, the fire station, the building at the corner of Laurel and South, and now we're tackling the residential neighborhoods. You got to get rid of the blight and improve the beautification of this city, because it is beautiful, and we have to make sure we emphasize that. Thank you.
We have it's got to be a multi-pronged approach to get business in. I think with today's technology, we need a better website, easier navigation in the city to attract the businesses. We've been talking about demolition. I've been talking about demolition for a long time. CDBG has been mentioned. We've had it here for 45 years. For a number of years, many years, we've preserved these old buildings. And people wanted to know why the people today don't take care of the buildings the way they used to. Well, some of the older people, the houses were 30, 40, 50 years old. When I was growing up, they're 50 and 60. They're over 120 years old, some of them. And the city used a lot of CDBG money in the past to preserve them. I think they should have been torn down many years ago. And I would continue to do the demolition, but this answers, it's not a 1-minute answer, it's not a 5-minute answer. It's a multi-pronged approach that 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, or 60 words is not going to explain. Thank you.
One of the most important things the city has done recently to bring development into the area is a project I worked on as a member of the planning board. I spent many hours on proposed zoning amendment 98-217, working with the mayor's office and the city solicitor. The intent of the change is to streamline the current cumbersome process to develop a dwelling that has been vacant for 2 years. This is a key element in helping to revitalize our city. Before this, there were roadblocks that were within City Hall, and this is a key step to eliminate some of those. Along with that, the mayor has proposed making it easier to have people have outdoor cafes and bringing in food trucks. These are all things that are going to bring better businesses into our city and revitalize our downtown area. Thank you.
I appreciate the work that has been going on these past few years. I continue to support what's been going, moving forward with eliminating the red tape for our businesses where they do have to run around, eliminating the red tape for individuals who want to come in and renovate homes. Here, right now, you can find a lot of properties that are very inexpensive, but if someone finds that they're going to be frustrated by the process of being able to pull permits, to put their funds into and to put their investments into these homes, I applaud what has been done, and I appreciate that it's going to continue. To promote economic viability, people ask me, Kelly, how do we keep business downtown? Kelly, how do we make our cities safer? I say, to promote economic viability, we need to get ourselves downtown. We're not patronizing these businesses enough. We need to come together for events. I appreciate very much the forward motion we're going in, and you'll continue to see me at these events, and I appreciate those who I see as well.
So spurring economic development, this is a tough question to answer in 1 minute, but reducing our regulatory burdens. Fitchburg has a reputation of being business unfriendly, so we need to reduce our regulatory burdens like the food truck problem that we had. I'm glad to see that we are moving forward with our economic development issues. We need to restructure our permitting process to ease the stress and burden on our new and existing businesses. The new economic development director is helping a lot. I would like to see that continue in the future with an economic development strategy plan. We need to continue to incrementally shift to a single tax rate. Communities with dual tax rates have seen businesses leave, and especially as Fitchburg's tax rate is very high, we need to continue to lower the shift of the commercial tax rate. We need to encourage high-speed telecommunications, like I heard today, that we are getting $250,000 to bring high-speed internet to downtown Main Street and continue to bring that to Airport Road. We need to continue on that. We need to ensure that our roads and our utility infrastructure are properly maintained and upgraded for economic development. These are bare minimum standards. And I agree, we need to demolish buildings to reduce blight in the city.
2 minutes more. Economic development. Anyone?
I think regulations go beyond just our city, and I think state regulations are very important to focus on. Partnerships with our state representatives, our state senators, having them promote the importance of things like the muni bill, reducing our, people don't understand at a state level. We have 300 towns in the state. Unitil is only in a few. So our representatives and our senators on a statewide level aren't seeing the critical mass that we are at. So you talk about regulatory changes. I think, continuing to push for our state representatives and backing them, and talking about the muni bill again, and as well renewable resources. Seeing that our wastewater treatment is now being turned hopefully into an anaerobic digestion facility where we can reduce our city's costs for energy. I do see as well that our water system, it flows downhill. So if we could, while we slow that down, as it's coming downhill, it can't come at full speed. We need to slow that. So if we could turn that into a reliable energy source, that again, that's being held up at the state. There's regulations behind that we need to continue to support our senators and see who your next elected representatives at that level will continue to push those forward.
Okay, let's move on to our final question of the evening. Thomas, if you would, Anthony Zarella.
All of you are active in your city, whether as an elected official or someone who serves in the community in other ways. What has been your proudest accomplishment in service to your city?
I think probably just the daily, monthly experiences on the zoning board itself. I could point to the ordinances, but that was as much an accomplishment of the city council and the planning board as it was of myself and the zoning board. But every month, we spend sometimes up to 6 hours at a time sitting in the senior center or in the auxiliary city hall buildings, just trying to bring good projects into the city, and at the same time screen out predatory investors from outside the city. Not that all investors from outside the city are predatory, but there have been some who have been looking to take advantage of the city, make a quick buck, and leave us with a ramshackle slum building. We have shut them down, and we've brought in good people. And that is something I'm very proud of.
Dave, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. One of the things that I did, it was a few years now, back in 1980, we had a softball marathon in which all the proceeds would go to the Center for Brain Injured Children in Fitchburg. These were two teams that played for 2.5 days without taking a break, and did it basically for that particular cause. I thought we showed some light about what these kids and families go through, and we tried to help them as much as we could. I've been with the FATV Board of Directors, I've mentioned that earlier, Crocker Field. I'm very proud of all those different meetings that we go through, sometimes, 4 times a week if we have a football game on a Friday night. So those are some of the things that I've enjoyed doing. I wouldn't be doing them if I didn't enjoy them. So thank you very much.
First and foremost, I'm proud to be a resident of Fitchburg. I am very proud of working with FATV on the show Your Right to Know, as well as helping the FRCC with the Civic Days, their Civic Days activities. In addition to that, I'm also very proud of helping individual residents with issues as an attorney. I've worked with individuals as well as property owners, help clear up issues, and I'm very proud of that. And overall, I'm just proud to be a member of this community.
So there's an elderly couple living on a dead-end road in Ward 6 that called me one day and was crying, saying to me that they couldn't get out of their driveway because there was work done to their road and there were big chunks of asphalt that were blocking their way of getting out. It happened for a few days. They called the DPW several times. Due to a miscommunication error on the DPW's part, which rarely happens, they thought they took care of the problem. Someone incorrectly put down it was taken care of. I drove to that resident's house, and their immediate reaction to me was, wow, I can't believe that there is someone in a position of authority in the city at my house. I'm on a dead-end road. I don't matter, probably. I felt so bad for this couple, but I didn't do anything out of what anybody else wouldn't do. I picked up the phone, called Lenny Laxo, called Gary Withington, and within 2 hours, the trucks were there picking up the asphalt, and this gentleman could get out there to go to his doctor's appointment. I thought nothing of it after that. It's a routine part of my job. What made me very emotional was 2 weeks later, I received a thank you card from this couple. And it was as if I was their savior. And I called them and I said, you don't have to send me a thank you card. It's part of my job. Anytime you need something with the city, you know who to come to. So that's one of countless examples that I can speak to of what I've done for this community. Thank you.
I'm proudest back in the late 70s with my brother Michael and Nancy Maynard, and I hope we started the College Neighborhood Association, and we did the first cleanup in our neighborhood. I think it was 78 or 79. And we've continued to do the neighborhood cleanup. And then the wards started to follow our suit, and then it became kind of citywide. I'm proudest of my volunteerism because I've been on downtown committees, neighborhood, college neighborhood, the Water Street, Ward 5, Cleghorn, all these different volunteers, and I put the effort in to run for mayor. I've served on the city council, I've served on the zoning board, and I've served for the Fitchburg Redevelopment Authority. We do get a slight stipend for the council, but everything else has been volunteer. I've had the full support of my wife and my family. That's what I'm proud of, working for the betterment of Fitchburg.
I'm very proud to say that I've been a lifelong resident of Fitchburg. Fitchburg is a city that I truly do love. I've been a teacher in Fitchburg, and during that time, I was very proud of a lot of the things I did when I volunteered. Volunteering for the U.S. First Robotics Competition. I've been a member of the Rotary, where I do a lot of volunteer work. I've been a member of the planning board for many years. And being a teacher and working with young children actually gave me the most pleasure I've had. But I must say my single most accomplishment that I'm most proud of was when I was a city councilor in the past. I'm very proud to say that I fought tooth and nail to bring to fruition the new Fitchburg High School that we all see. Thank you.
I appreciate very much that there are organizations in the city and individuals in the city that reach out to me and say, Kelly, you know what? I need your help. Last year, I went on I was sent to Ohio with New View Communities to do a weekend-long workshop. From that, we brought back gardening to members of the community. We reached 41 members of the families of the community who maybe had third-floor apartments that they didn't think they could garden. We showed them how to grow their own food. I'm on the board of directors of Growing Places, the community gardens that happen in the area. I build those community gardens. I build gardens in people's backyards. That's volunteerism. I would say, however, my proudest accomplishment is my son, my 13-year-old son. He can be seen out with me doing cleanups. He and I every week volunteer with Caring for Kids for the past 3.5 years, making sure that kids are being fed. My son is seen at the library being active with the kids and just enjoying what's going on. And I know that all of you who have met my son can see why I'm so proud of him, and that's absolutely my biggest accomplishment in this city.
So for biggest accomplishment, the first thing that pops into my head is the Fitchburg Dog Park. I started a nonprofit, the Friends of Fitchburg Dogs, at the call of the Parks and Recreation Department in Fitchburg. The Parks Department put out a call to the community to ask residents to come and help them get a dog park going, which has been asked for in the city for the past 20 years. And so I attended that meeting and I said, let's do it. Within the next month, we started a nonprofit, the Friends of Fitchburg Dogs. We have raised over $28,000 in the 2.5 years that we have been an organization. And I wrote a $250,000 grant to the Stanton Foundation for a dog park, which has been approved. It's gone through Conservation Commission and Parks Department so far, and it has been approved for Coolidge Park. It's going to be up to almost a 1-acre fenced-in dog park that will serve the 1,800 registered and licensed dogs in the city and beyond.
You can see an extensive list of accomplishments on my website since I've been on the City Council. Everything from protecting the children from sex offenders to being the only City Council not sued for $300,000 to putting in several initiatives for economic development and economic growth. But I'm most proud of when people say to me, that I can't believe you called me back. My personal telephone number is listed everywhere, and I always call people back when they ask for help, whether it's through email, phone calls, or text. So having constituent service, providing the utmost constituent service is something I'm most proud of.
Okay, well, that concludes our formal questioning. How about a big round of applause for our candidates? Thank you all. All right, we're gonna conclude here with 1 minute closing statements. Anything that you'd like to share with the group in 1 minute, and we'll go the reverse way, and we'll start with Anthony Zarella, please.
Well, I am really not much of a politician. If I got any decent sound bites tonight, it was probably by accident. And I can't work a room to save my life. I don't have a lot of causes that I crusade for. Not that that's a bad thing, it's just not me. But here's what I do have to offer to the city. What I do get involved in, I throw myself into 110%. I can't count the number of times I've been up past midnight researching an issue for the zoning board to make sure that we get the decision right the first time and that we are appeal-proof. I look at things in terms of systems and how they fit together. If we have one issue, we can't treat it in isolation from every other issue. We have to know how it interacts so that we don't wind up with these situations that no one anticipated, but now everyone's stuck with. And in light of that, if you want a charismatic frontman for the city, you got to find someone else. But if you want someone who is going to work all day, every day, to make the city better in everything I do, and do my due diligence on every decision I make, then please, on November 7th, give me a shot. And even if you're not going to vote for me, get to the polls on November 7th, because if you don't vote, you can't be a part of the solutions for Fitchburg. Thank you.
Thank you, Sentinel Enterprise and editor Charles St. Amand, Fitchburg State University, my fellow candidates, and the audience here and at home for listening and watching. My name is Dean Tran. I am very proud of my record over the 12 years that I have served on the City Council. People of all races, age, gender, and economic status have relied on me to be their voice and to work hard for them with integrity, dignity, and honesty. My personal life story is unique. Being an immigrant from Vietnam, living in a refugee camp, and eventually making my way to Fitchburg, then marrying a wonderful woman and having 4 children, thus achieving the American dream. I know what it is like to need help, and that is why my actions and votes have always been about serving the people. My commitment and dedication will never change, whether serving on the local or state level. To learn more about my life and my campaign, please visit my website at deantran.com or call me at 978-855-9622. I'm asking for your vote. I'm number 4 on the ballot, and thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you, FSU and the Sentinel Enterprise at FATV. My name is Samantha Squalia, and I'm asking for your vote on November 7th. I am from Fitchburg. I was raised here. I'm a mother, I'm a small business owner, an engineering project manager, and volunteer. I'm dedicated to our city, and I'm dedicated to our success. My top priorities as your City Councilor-at-Large will be fiscal responsibility, public safety, economic development, and community involvement. A vote for me is a vote for hard work, good communication, and unwavering dedication. I believe to have and build a strong community, you have to be a part of it. acting as a positive ambassador to the city, growing our events, helping our schools, strengthening our parks, bettering our downtown, promoting arts and culture, promoting businesses, and cleaning up our city. I believe that together we can shape our future for what's best for all. Please vote for Samantha Squalia, City Councilor-at-Large, on Tuesday, November 7th. You can go to www.elect-sam.com to find out more information. Thank you so much.
So the reason I'm here today is because I'm a passionate city resident. I was born here, Burbank. Thank you very much. My son, unfortunately, was not able to be. Here we are. We've been losing jobs. We lose motivation when we feel unsafe in our city. So you see me out. You see me promoting events. You see me serving meals and raising funds. Thank you. Say thank you. Say thank you to your other volunteers. I want to build partnerships here. I have partnerships already on the City Council. I work with other City Council members as well. I work greatly with lots of volunteers, and they ask me to be a part of what they can do to bring the city forward. So the reason I am running is because my neighbors have asked me to run. They tell me they want me to be a voice, and I hope that I have convinced you that I could be a voice and I would listen to you, and I will continue to move this city forward, and I'm proud to live here. I'm not going anywhere, and I appreciate all of you being here tonight. Thank you.
First, I want to say thank you to Fitchburg State College, the Sentinel Enterprise, and FATV, and thank you to the audience for allowing me to be here. My name is Mike Hurley. I've been a lifelong resident of Fitchburg. I'm a retired school teacher. I taught at Monty Tech and at Worcester Technical High School. And I presently teach at Mount Wachusett Community College, and I work at the Worcester County House of Correction. In the past, I've worked at James River No. 8 Mill, Barclay and Dexter, Fitchburg Engineering, and my first job as a machinist, I was working at Ivor Johnson's in Fitchburg. I graduated from Monty Tech in 1974 as class president, and I got my teaching degree from Fitchburg State College. I'm proud to say that I'm a United States Naval veteran. I received the Rotary Employee of the Year Award. I received the Kristen McAuliffe Teacher of the Year Award, and those are two of my proudest accomplishments for my job. I just want to say, on November 7th, please remember to vote for Mike Hurley. Thank you.
Good evening and thank you. Thank you for showing your interest in Fitchburg. Thank you, FATV. Thank you, President Lapidus, Fitchburg State University, for hosting this event, and Charles St. Amman and the Sentinel Enterprise for organizing it. Thank you to all the candidates who have taken a brave step to show how they can help the people in Fitchburg. I'm Tom Donnelly. I'm asking for your vote as a city councilor. I have served the people of Fitchburg proudly, and I would like to continue to serve them. I'm a family man, businessman, homeowner, public servant, neighbor, and concerned citizen. Fitchburg is a great place to live. The people in Fitchburg have choices of homes, neighborhoods, churches, jobs, schools, stores, and recreation. We even have a university, an art museum, and a civic center. I think we should be promoting the great things Fitchburg has and work diligently and enthusiastically on the things that need improvement. Fitchburg is a great place to live, work, play, raise a family, and retire. Please vote for me, Tom Donnelly, Councilor-at-Large, November 7th. Thank you.
Four years ago, my beautiful wife Sarah and I built a home in Fitchburg. I'm a lifelong resident, and we were given the greatest blessing in the world when we had our son John born just over a year ago. I am a product of the Fitchburg Public School System. I have a bachelor's degree in finance from Providence College, a master's degree in business administration from Bentley University, and credits towards a master's in accounting at Clark University. I am a senior finance analyst at a defense company in Fitchburg for the last 12 years. I am chairman of the city's finance committee and former vice president of the city council. But regardless of my professional and educational background, I am in this job because the residents allow me to be in this job. My candidacy is resident first, not for myself. And if you contact me, I am accessible, accountable, and reliable. I am successful as a counselor if you are satisfactorily served with the city. I am your bridge to city government. I make no outlandish promises, I tell it like it is, and I tell the truth, and I've lost votes over it, and that's fine because I don't need this job. I love this job, and if you let me continue in it, I will serve you as best I can as I have these last 10 years. Thank you very much.
Every candidate here tonight feels an obligation to serve their city and serve its citizens. My journey began 2 years ago with my campaign in 2015. Through that experience, my respect and devotion to the city has only continued to grow. Fitchburg demands a good, solid, strong representation in municipal government. The people of this good city only want what every other city wants: good schools, safe neighborhoods, resources for those that need, solid infrastructure, and opportunities to grow and thrive. Through my responses tonight, I hope not only have I won your vote, but more importantly, your trust. As a parent, I want Fitchburg to flourish in the same way you do: safe and clean playgrounds, safe streets, community policing, opportunities for our young people to stay active and succeed. The entire state of Massachusetts is facing an opioid crisis. Our neighborhoods, families, and friends are all being affected. We need to continue supporting our police and their efforts to help our citizens facing issues with addictions. As a resident, I want Fitchburg to continue to grow economically and to have new businesses come here to set up shop. I want to see us be a destination, not just a stop on Route 2. I want to see our homeowners happy and have happy that they live in Fitchburg. So in closing, when you fill out your ballot on November 7th, I ask for your vote to work for you. The citizens of Fitchburg as Councilor-at-Large, and I'm always going to be fighting for Fitchburg.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, and thank you to Fitchburg State. And everyone here tonight, it's great to see such a nice turnout. So my wife and I are driving down Summer Street and Water Street area, and we go past this beautiful bridge. It's never on. The light's never on. I mean, wouldn't it be nice if we could just light up that part of Fitchburg? I have seen it many, many years ago. And when the lights were turned on, it is beautiful. It's something that we could really look at in this city. So if you want to get back to it, I'm serious about that. Anybody that I've mentioned this to has been go, go, go. And I think we can do something. Grassroots, maybe, but we may give it a shot. Fitchburg is moving. Fitchburg has great momentum right now. In the immortal words of Tom Brady, let's go. Let's take it. Vote for Dave Quack on that 7th day of what is the bank? Is it anyways? Thank you very much, the 7th. Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Great. I'd like to thank all the candidates for coming out tonight and sharing your thoughts. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank the audience as well for coming out. I hope you learned a little something along the way this evening. And to those viewers that were watching on TV as well. Again, it's been repeated a number of times here. November 7th is voting day. Please note that there will be actually 2 ballots on that day, one for municipal races, which include the seats here for City Council, and then there is a special election for the Senate race. So doubly important to get out. That being said, I want to again thank the Sentinel Enterprise, FATV, of course Fitchburg State for hosting this. Have a great night. Be safe. Thanks a lot.